Gosh, I cannot tell you what an honor it is to be here amongst all of you with people like Rani, like Vandana. All of the speakers tonight are bringing you the answers. We have the answers. This pin that I wear says COP3. That was Kyoto. We knew it then, and we know it now. It's a question of, are we going to implement it? We face a danger. Our movement tends to be a bucket of crabs. If you put a whole bunch of crabs in a bucket, they start trying to crawl out, and as soon as one of them starts to gain elevation, the rest claw them down. I was over at the COP today, and there is starting to be a split between those of us who have been working for many years on energy issues, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and those of us who are working on regenerative agriculture. If we splinter, we lose. And there are powerful interests out there who very much want us to lose. You can tell me why, because they die too. Life as we know it will die if we do not succeed. But we cannot let this become an us versus them in our own movement. This has to be, yes, both and. All of the energy solutions, all of the regenerative agriculture solutions, and we have them. Here's what we get if we fail, hell on earth. And we have the opportunity to slow climate change and then ultimately begin to reverse it. What we have now is the risk of food crises. This is Lester Brown's work. Empty planet. 33 countries around the world are now food insecure because we are losing soil fertility the world around. Remember, it was a food riot in Tunisia that kicked off the Arab Spring, which then traveled to Syria, which we now have refugees. It is now flooding in India. It's flooding in Scotland because of climate. This was Pakistan 2010. 20 million people displaced in a country with nuclear missiles. The north of Africa is drying out. We are now in a super El Nino from climate change. And what would you do? Think about it. You can no longer stay where you were. What would you do? You'd move. And so we have the jungle in Calais. We have the refugees flooding Europe. And this is only the beginning. Half of Syria is now displaced, half of the country. Global Biodiversity Outlook 3, science from Dr. Tom Lovejoy at the Smithsonian Institute. 3 of the Earth's ecosystems are already tipping into collapse because of climate change. Coral reefs, sorry, scuba divers, business as usual. There will be no living coral reefs on planet Earth, perhaps as early as 2030. The Amazon is drying up and burning, and the oceans are acidifying. Some people now say it is too late. We have left it for too long. This, I think, is the most profoundly irresponsible position that any of us could take. About a third of young people in the West now suffer from what is called affective anxiety disorder. They don't believe there's going to be a future. Teilhard de Chardin said the future belongs to those who give hope to the next generation. Act like it. So is there a way out of this mess? Yeah. The Holy Father. Climate change is a scientific reality. And so the idiot congressman in my country said, I don't get my science from the Pope. Yeah, well, his master's is in chemistry. He does know what he's talking about. And it is a moral imperative. It is both the approaches we have taken in the past haven't worked. Trying to become sustainable. This is from Bill Reed, the Green Architect. Sustainability is only halfway there. It's getting our nose above water. But where are we going to? And this is this concept of a regenerative economy. I've been working of late with a man named John Fullerton. He was 18 years J.P. Morgan. He was a banker. He left. He walked away to create Capital Institute to try to rethink finance. He said, this is the way the world is today. We, the planet, are in service to the economy. So after 9/11 in my country, George Bush said, go shopping. And he was right. If in an economy that's 70% based on consumption, you act as if nothing's happened, economically nothing's happened. But what's wrong with this picture? We are flowing money to finance very effectively. What's wrong with it is it's the wrong way around. Finance is a tool to bring liquidity to a real economy that is itself in service to life. This is what we have the opportunity to do. Create a new narrative of an economy in service to life. John wrote a paper that I highly recommend to you called Regenerative Capitalism. And I'm not going to walk through all the details. Get the paper, read it. These are principles that accord with the way nature does business. These are nature's principles applied to the economy. Wendell Berry, the poet, said, because we have not made our lives to fit our places, our forests are ruined, the fields eroded, the streams polluted, the mountains overturned. Hope then to belong to your place by your own knowledge of what it is that no other place is, and by your caring for it as you care for no other place. This place that you belong to, though it is not yours, for it was from the beginning and will be to the end. We need to become place-based, to honor community, to honor place, to celebrate a real economy in service to life, bringing together those who have been left out of this narrative, the heretics, the people at the margins. There is a real concern for social justice, and it has to be at the core of our movement. And Vandana will talk much more to you about that. We have to respect diversity. In nature, the places where two ecosystems come together are the most abundant. Why? Because they have diversity. Pete Seeger, the gentle folk singer, said the key to the future of the world is finding the optimistic stories and letting them be known. We have these stories, our community, and yet we are not telling them, and we're not telling them effectively. William Gibson, the science fiction writer, said the future is already here, it's just not widely distributed. As I said, we have all the technologies, so let's start implementing them. Start with energy. Dr. Mark Jacobson, Stanford University. There are no technological or economic barriers to running the entire world on renewable energy. And it's what's starting to happen. Interestingly now with the INDCs, the intended nationally determined contributions, these are gifts. We're starting to get a race to the top. So India said 40% renewables, Brazil said 43. Tony Seba, Silicon Valley entrepreneur, said the entire world will be renewably powered, entirely renewable energy by 2030 because of 4 reasons. Fall in the cost of solar, fall in the cost of storage, electric cars and driverless cars. The world will be at grid parity. Solar will cost the same as electricity from the grid for the entire world within a few years. It'll be the whole U.S. next year, 80% of the world by 2017. Then you get to Janine's principles, biomimicry. This is how nature does business. It runs on sunlight, it recycles everything. In nature, carbon is not the world's greatest poison. It's the building block of all of life. We think we exist because of this big brain of ours. We don't. We exist because of 6 inches of soil and the fact that it rains. And yet we think we're going to feed the world with industrial agriculture. We're not. Dad said it 2 years ago. Only organic smallholder agriculture can feed the world. The soils of the world can soak up all of the carbon we're emitting. But do not let it become this zero-sum game. Oh, we're all going to do it with agriculture. No, we're all going to do it with energy. We need both. But a 2% increase in carbon soil, and you take up all of the anthropogenic carbon. Alan Savory is showing how to do this with grazing animals. This is some land that I manage using Alan's approach. It had been eroding, noxious weeds coming in. We used cows. You can use goats. You can use sheep. We happen to use cows. This is a picture of holistically managed land, conventionally managed land. Again, fence line, holistically managed, conventionally managed. You can take desertified land, feed cattle on it, and with 6 inches of rain, begin to grow grass. You can do it on acid mine tailings. Turn the cows out, feed them, and you get grass. And grass-fed beef is what consumers want because it's healthier for you. You can do it at home. Don't have a lawn. Grow vegetables. But compost. Put the carbon back in the soil. If we're standing at the edge of a cliff and that is what we're doing, the only wise move is to step back from the edge and turn around. And when you do, you see all of the wonder of the natural world, of the indigenous communities, the wisdom we have forgotten. My old boss, David Brower, used to say, what do we want the earth to be like 50 years from now? He said, do a little dreaming. Navigators have aimed at the stars for centuries. They haven't hit one yet, but because they aimed high, they found their way. Maimonides said each person must see himself as though the entire world were held in balance, and whatever he or she does will tip the scales. Each one of us is going to make the difference. Bucky said we're called to be the architects of the future, not its victims. I have to leave you. I've been invited to go and talk to Coca-Cola. And who else would you rather this kind of message go to? So I wish I could stay. You have a wonderful lineup, but adios.